Hi, this is CJ Miller, and I'm here in my apartment in Shreveport, Louisiana. Uh, I'm doing a video for my YouTube channel, uh, and this is just I wanted to bring out this painting uh, that I started doing shortly before the pandemic, and then I put my paintings away, and I didn't want to sell them anymore, but. At the time, because it was like, I didn't really feel like uh, it was the time to ask people to come out of their pocket, for no matter what the cost. We didn't know what was going on. We're a little bit more stable now. Not that the economy's good and not that there's not inflation, but we know where it's going, and people know uh, that the inflation's it's going to skyrocket. So people know their money and they know what they can spend and what they can't spend. So I don't mind talking about these bits of art that I work on. Uh, the one above it is not mine. Yeah, I mean, I own it, but I didn't paint it. But this one is one of the ones that I did, and I started out. There were a lot of school shootings, and then the pandemic happened, and everybody stayed home, and there were uh, the school. And as I pull back, you see the crispness of the work. That it's a little, you know what I mean, the fullness of it. It's a small piece, so it's not especially expensive. Okay, so the idea of this is that it's supposed to look like a school age child's drawing. I put myself in the mental state of what would I be like as a third or fourth grader uh, in in elementary school these days, or those days actually, because it was a few years ago, and then, the shooting stopped, because of the pandemic, and then of course, recently we've had some more breakout, and so I thought, it's okay to be topical. I live in Shreveport. We have shootings happen all the time, but this, you know, with the gun violence, but in particular, it speaks of, you know, of what we're witnessing, and of course we uh, haven't yet come to a solution. But anyway, I don't really know that much about guns, so that's my little rendition of a gun, and then and from a child's point of view, and then so the bullet blasts and hitting, and then there's, you know. Some blood coming down the wall. This is a spigot, and I don't know why I wanted it to be like a faucet pouring. I don't, because of some urban, there's some bricks because I live in an urban uh, downtown neighborhood, and so I wanted there to be some brick-like things, and then there's a lot of layers inside of this water that's uh, dripping out of the faucet. Because what I noticed was there was some drippage coming out of the faucet at the time that I did this, and then there was a big puddle that comes out along the sidewalk, and so on the pavement. There's not much in the way of greenery, but there are some. So I put some trees out, small trees, uh, and basically just drew the idea of playing with the colors that I was using, and then of course I created uh, the deathly image off to the side, and I'm leaving it open for interpretation. The words, "Don't shoot, shoot, shoot that thing at me," they are from a song. They're lyrics from a song from a band called Violent Femmes, and the song is called "Add It Up." And there's one part where uh, the lyricist, the narrator of the song is talking about the decay of familial relationships, and uh, everything that's going on, and what it has to do with, like, he's talking to the mother, and he's like, "Mother, look at your son. He's went downtown and he got a gun. Don't shoot, shoot, shoot that thing at me." So this it's very much and that was released in oh my God, the 80s, you know? And this isn't anything that's new, by the way. Um, I mean, it's just that we get inundated, and we get, we're not just what's happening locally, but we get news about everything that happens nationwide, internationally. Sometimes uh, bombings and shootings and things like this isn't new. This isn't something that just started in the last 10 or 15 years. This has been going on for some time. As a matter of fact, so I don't know how they're going to address it. But this painting was my way of dealing with, and speaking upon what is going on. And the only thing there is to say right now, as things are, is hey, don't let me get shot. Uh, that's it. That's kind of like, hey, don't shoot at me, bro. Uh, yeah. But so this is widely open to interpretation. It's not political, but it is a social commentary. And yeah, I wanted it to look like a magazine, uh, something that can fire, uh, rapid fire, if not a automatic, but whatever, because that was kind of like the hot debate at the time. Hey, how many rounds can we have in this magazine, and that kind of stuff, blah blah blah. Those, and I don't mean to reduce it, but we know the arguments and the discussion. So I'm not gonna present uh, my side here one way or the other. This is just addressing gun violence uh, in our nation, and I wanted to do it from the vantage point of a child. That's why it's kind of like low down. And then parts of the color sort of represent. They're meant to be like, it's meant to look a little graffiti-ish. It's meant to have some some urbania flavors to it, so to speak. So anyway, I'm not exactly sure that I'm finished with this yet. I know that I got it to this point and some time ago, and then I wanted to let it sit up and dry, because this is oil. Every bit of that is oil. And oil paint is it's a straight up bitch to work with, So yeah, I'll in the months to come, I'll start working a little bit more with some of the paintings that I've done, and I'll start talking about them a little bit more on YouTube. I used to do this on Facebook, and when I did this on Facebook, I had uh, well over 1,000 followers, or somewhere close to 1,200, which I know that's just not, that's not Facebook famous at all, but I could do something like this, and I could put it up, and I could talk about it, and it would spread faster. And when a piece went up for sale, uh, and my pieces are very reasonable when I do talk about selling them. I only sell them for enough to recuperate the supplies that went into making them, give or take, and postage, if there's any sort of postage, like if I mail it. Then I have to pay for packaging and postage and stuff, so I have to recoup those costs. Uh, but I'm actually really proud of this. I mean, here's the little bullet over there, and then you can see the waves. It's like bullet time, if you look in close, like from the Matrix kind of stuff. So it's like I wanted to, there's like all kind of feelings and thoughts that I want to bring out in this, and I want this to be seen by whomever wants to see it, or whoever gets to see it, and I want to evoke emotion. I want to evoke conversation. I don't want to steer the conversation, because to do that is to have a dishonest conversation. um, about you know everything. I want to express alarm and fear uh, with an actual shot. I think I know. Okay, so the spigot was supposed to be coming off a wall, but I think I also wanted it to be somewhat phallic, as if a bullet is like striking uh, a man in the abdomen or something. Because it's there's a leak coming out of it. So I think I remember at some point I wanted to do something. So that is not something that you would think of from a child's point of view. Uh, but that was just my own little personal something that I threw in there. But you get it, right? I mean, if you're seeing this, it's like okay, whatever. I mean, it's a little catchy, it's a little cheeky or whatever. But um, because I want there to be a wide array of emotion from the satirical point. I want to address the tragedy, but I also want to address some of the desensitization. Uh, there's a somewhat when I look at this, I can see like a snarling little figure in the puddle in the water from certain angles that I look at it, and then the ghostly apparition over here, the whatever I see, he's got maybe a slight smile to his face, um, like, and it's I don't know. It's one of those things where you can look at it and whatever kind of emotion you're feeling at the time is maybe going to be projected into these uh, into these subtle images. As I said, I'm looking at this through my phone. I'm not looking at it with my through the painting. But it's nearly as crisp, I should say, in real life. When you step back and you look at it, it's nearly as crisp as it is uh, as the painting is looking at a phone, which increases the definition. Even as I increase it and sit back, this is probably uh, close to real life right here, where you know what I mean. But if you were to take it and use the highest definition on the camera, it's like oh my god. But either way, I mean, it's a true to it's just what you're seeing here is pretty true to what you would see, and this should go to um, when it leaves my home. It should go to someone who's going to display it. Uh, Someone who's not afraid to display works of art that address social issues, because this is probably one of my most social pieces. Most of the time when I do a painting, it's for fun and it's a little bit of a hey, I want it to be kind of light and I want it to be a little fanciful and a little outrageous. Um, and it's usually introspective. It's usually about my point of view on something. This I kind of wanted to step out of my point of view, and I wanted to have some empathy about what it must be like to be growing up in this world, as wide as we are, and open as we are. We have, you know, for the most part, uh, whether we like it or not, um, people are a little bit more free to be a little bit closer to their honest selves at a younger age in this nation. Like when I was like a kid in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, you couldn't be like, oh, I'm gay. It was like that was not something that happened, and especially in the southern United States, Uh, and that really, I couldn't be like way out. I could be a little bit out, but I couldn't be like way out uh, while I was at home. That just wasn't. And it wasn't that I was going to be rejected or anything like that. It was just that prospect was just terrifying to a fundamental Baptist. So anyway, yeah, I hear sirens and stuff. you know, it's the thing about living in any sort of metropolitan area. You're going to hear a lot of sirens, trains, that kind of stuff. Sorry about that. So I wanted the trees to be the color of changing seasons, leaves changing seasons. So the trees themselves, the entirety of the foliage, sometimes they look like one great big giant leaf to me, but it's really, I'm seeing about one, two, three, maybe about four different uh, trees, give or take, or whatever. It's a little cluster of little trees. But we don't see a lot of trees inside of an urban area. But we at the time they were building not far from where I live. They were building a park that was going to have a couple of trees and some greenery and stuff, and it was going to be reserved. And they did that, and it's great, and I'm happy that they did that. And then they took a corner of that, and they decided to put a stage for whenever they want to do performing. So it's not just a park for walking, but there's a, you know what I mean? And it's like, you know, uh, I really, you know, but so there'll be events there and everything like that, and that's neat. There's a lot of parks in the area, but most of them are cement parks. You know, I'll do some walking around my neighborhood in the light hours of the day, but we can kind of see what's going on. There's Asian gardens, and which we actually don't have a large Asian population, but there's enough to have Asian gardens. And you know, a multicultural museum. I want to explore some of that. And I had a friend, I have a friend, he's still a friend, and he was like, you know, the multicultural museum that we have here doesn't represent every single culture. Well, it represents the culture that it has available, you know, many different races and you know, maybe it doesn't have a representation from all over the world, but he was mostly talking about it doesn't have a lot of American culture. And really, what he wanted to say was, you know, white culture. And he's a great guy. He's a good guy, but I mean, I don't think he really quite understood. You know, right across the street there are museums, you know, that have like uh, local history, and we have like museums that celebrate Caucasian American Caucasian that uh, you know, the people who come from Europe over here. You know, I'm not, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but we have all sorts of representation. So if I don't get a particular spot in a multicultural museum, uh, which is meant to address or to express other types of nationalities throughout the world, and other cultures, not even nationalities, but just cultures, local colloquialisms that are far removed from my experience, really is what it's about. And in a smaller space, you're not going to fit the entire world in there. So, you know, but as a white man, I'm not Caucasian, white, European, whatever. I am not lacking for representation, and that was my answer to him. And yeah, that's just one of those areas that, you know, sometimes we agree to disagree. He's a good guy. It's just, you know, it's like, well, you know, but as it comes, I mean, when's the last time he did go to the uh, where was it? He went to the there's a museum in Chicago, you know, with that big painting, and they do the um, it's a very famous painting. I forget it, but it's in the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, when they take the tour of the modern art, and they do the surrealist of the people looking at the art, looking at the art, looking at the art, and this kind of like that. So I mean, you know, but for the most part, on a regular daily basis, you know, people just don't run and go look at museums anyway. So I mean, if you're not worried about going to look at a museum, don't go and look at a museum. Don't worry about if it's there or not. You know, I mean, these are stories that have social and well, they have social significance. You know, so There's a lot of response that happens in the world that is handed down generationally that we don't necessarily know uh, that it can be offensive when addressed with other people because we live in our social segregations. Like we socialize where we socialize, and then we come back to our particular individual quarters, and sometimes those cultures are right next to each other. Uh, but it's not until recently that we've started to get, especially in the southern United States, a little bit more. I really have to say, with the more the open mindedness did come with the uh, social media and Facebook. And I did Facebook for a lot of years. What I realized is that a lot of the work, and I think I may have already said this and I'm being redundant, a lot of the work that I was doing, or a lot of the posting that I was doing on Facebook, even though I had like a 2,000 plus followers or something like that. It was like what had happened was, quote, is that I realized that most of what I was posting was visual. It was visual media, and I was, versus text or writing, which you wouldn't have, but that was the evolution of Facebook. And then around the same time, my Facebook that I had forever did get hacked, and but I had already closed down that Facebook, and then somebody came back, and I guess maybe they noticed that I wasn't using it, or maybe or that I was gonna close it out. I was really gonna try to memorialize it, but anyway, it ended up getting hijacked, and at that point, it was like, no, I'm not doing Facebook anymore. Once it was big time because they were hitting up all these people. People were actually had donated money for a medical problem. That there was no medical problem, not to be described. And I certainly wasn't doing a GoFundMe or anything like that, because I don't do that. What I do is occasionally I'll have something like this, and then I'll offer it up for bidding. So if this does appeal to anyone, and like I said, this can't go to someone who's not afraid. If you don't want to display it somewhere, if you don't want to talk about social issues and things that are important, this is not the piece for you. But hang loose, and I will have some more whimsical works of art come up that I'll work on that will be. But this is something that I think it's just about ready. It's just about ready to go out. It's just about where I want it to be. It just took forever to dry because it's an oil painting versus acrylic. Acrylic is real quick. Oil painting is not. And it's also extremely messy. So, okay, anyway. Oh, and I remember there was a guy who was doing okay, so he was doing solid work. He was a kind of a newer guy who was doing, he was in the cool and kind of like neo hip art or whatever. And he was the cool space at our local art space gallery, which I need to show you guys if you're not local here. I need to do a video and talk about some of that experience. Because I don't really do art showings or anything like that, but I love to go see them. I guess I don't have the confidence in my work to be competitive in a market, but I know this is something that's not really being done a lot of. But it's one guy was doing something, and he was doing some work, and his paintings, they looked like collages. Whereas this is somewhat collagical. It looks like there's zones and components, and there's different bits that tell different. So it's sort of a collage that comes together to tell a story, but not really a collage, it's a painting. But his paintings looked like collages. And then there was a guy downstairs in the main space, and his showing was he actually did collages that looked like solid paintings. And so the guy upstairs was doing like solid paintings like this that had a collage aspect to it or whatever. So I actually kind of thought that was interesting. And the unrefinement of his work was what people talked about, and they really loved it because it seemed to come from a raw and truthful place. And so, yeah, and that kind of encouraged me. Hey, it's, you know, it's kind of a bummer sometimes to really have to talk about some things, some problems in our society, um, especially when we don't necessarily know when we're going to get the answer and our hands are up in the air, because it's not like we can just, hey, if I can have what I want to do about it, this will be solved. But I live in a society, and the answer is in uh, the power of the majority of opinion, and how we go. It's not one or two people that make the decision. It has to be the collective, and mostly, whether it's this issue of the gun violence or whether it's anything else, all I can say is that if you want your voice to count, if you want to matter in these issues, you must vote. Yeah. So, with that, and I've almost gone on for 30 minutes, get in touch with me on my YouTube channel, CJ Miller, if you're interested in purchasing. If you're interested in purchasing this. If not, that's fine. I'll just display it here. It's like the old song goes: if I can't sell it, I think I'll just sit on it. I'll just recline on it. Okay. Bye.